Uh,
It was freedom, liberation.
I hear you. I'm gonna leave that text alone, brother. There's only one who's gone to prepare a place for me. I love Harriet with all my heart, but let's just give her the $20 bill and leave the preparing a place for Jesus. Listen, it's September the 10th, 2020. This is the Power Hour brought to you by Power Interfaith. Check us out at powerinterfaith.org. Sitting across from me is actually the executive director of Power, Bishop Dwayne Royster, and I am the Reverend Mark Kelly Tyler. And we're glad to be here with you on today on WURD Radio. You can check us out at WDRWURDradio.com. You can download the app. You can go old school and listen to us at 900 AM or 96.1 FM. You can also tune in to Facebook Live, which is a little bit more fun than YouTube. I think YouTube is probably a better, more stable connection. You can check us out there too, but all the fun seems to happen on Facebook Live. You can call us this morning at 215-634-8065, or we'll pick up the bill if you're outside of the city of Philadelphia, 866-361-0900, because that's how much we care about you. Download the app and listen to WURD all day long. Great programming here all day long with great hosts and great calls and great interviews. Today, if you're going to go outside and, risk, well, we're going to hear a clip from Trump that tells you it's not, you're going to hear conflicting things from Trump. So depending on how you
What's
feel.
new about that? What's new about that? Please tell me what's new about that.
Oh, the mind of Trump. And so, but yeah, if you're going outside today, you probably want to pack an umbrella no matter what it looks like right now, like some serious rain coming. When the rain comes from the east to the west, that's some bad rain. So be careful out there. To be hot, muggy, and rainy. So Royster.
Yes,
Royster.
sir. Yes, sir.
What's on your mind this morning, Royster?
Look, man, there's a whole lot going on. So many people are aware. I think we're going to talk about this probably more in depth. The city has been moving to move folk from the homeless encampments around the city. There was one in front of the PHA office. There's one that's been down on Ben Franklin Parkway. It's just been a travesty for a city that at one point had 25,000 abandoned properties in it. This was back in the early 2000s. I know I was organizing around it at the time. The fact that we can't find homes and housing for the homeless and those that are afflicted with mental health challenges and those that are chronically, lacking resources, financial resources, just really is a sad state of affairs. We can manage to do so many things in our city, but what we haven't really been able to do is address poverty, to address the issue of chronic homelessness and really be able to provide hope for people. Housing, just like I believe medical care and food, it should be a right, not a privilege. And so we need to really figure out how we're going to address that. So it's a very difficult situation for homeless folk who have been standing up and a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, have been really calling to pay attention to the lives of those that have been that are houseless and do not have a place to be able to call home at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, wow, what was that? It's an interesting time for us to say the very least. And this is going to be, I guess, really the first big test for Tumar Alexander, who has stepped in as the interim managing director for the mayor. And I can almost guess what would happen if Brian Abernathy was still in that role. Quite frankly, I'm glad he's not. I don't think Brian handled this kind of pressure particularly well. Nice guy and all, but pressure-packed situations require a different kind of temperament. And so Tumar appears to have it. So how are they going to, how will they handle this? Will they, come in, strong with police and, knocking tents down and dragging people out? That's one approach. Obviously, I don't think anybody wants that right now. They tried to negotiate over several months. That has not necessarily helped. I'm not sure what the rush is right now at this point. They've been there now for months. Why September 9th was such an arbitrary date. I just don't know. I mean, it's, my sense is that somehow the city's going to find a way to screw this up, right? That's just kind of my sense. And we're going to have something that at the end of the day, people will be apologizing for, years from now. I hope that my sense is wrong and that they will find a way to really, help people do what they ultimately want to do. Nobody wants to live on a tent on Ben Franklin Parkway. Let's just put that out there. The folk who are there want to live in homes of their own. They've hit a bad patch in life. And if we can bail out corporations, I mean, heck, Donald Trump has been bailed out more times than you can think when his businesses have gone belly up. But that's a businessman versus, people who just have had tough breaks.
Well, I mean, I think it also goes to speak to our mental health situation, right, in the city of Philadelphia, that we don't make investment in the resourcing to help folk that are challenged, right? Actually, the homeless crisis, this actually predates probably your time in Philadelphia, but there actually used to be a state hospital here called Byberry that was up on off of State Road and Byberry Road up in the Northeast. And when the state of Pennsylvania started defunding mental health services and mental health hospitals, and don't get me wrong, it was not the greatest hospital in the world. It was a state hospital, and back in the 70s and 80s, 90s, 60s, what we understood about mental health was very limited. But what happened is we cut resources to that, and the homeless crisis in Philadelphia just went through the roof because people now did not have access to resources, whether it was mental health or whether it was food or whether it was shelter. And we've continually seen this over and over again. And rather than really take the time to make the investment in caring for people, we just pretty much leave them to their own devices, even when they are asking for help, because we don't have the resources or the wherewithal or the will to really make a difference in the lives of folk that are struggling deeply. And the rents in Philadelphia are starting to go through the roof. And I actually think we're going to begin to see a deeper homeless problem here in a minute. We're building all this market rate housing in the city, and people are not making a significant investment in low income and moderate income housing. It's just a real travesty that we're contending with at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you said it right. I think the issue is, do we have the will?
That's right.
Right. I mean, because we certainly have the money. We have money to do whatever we want. I mean, which is evidenced by the fact that every time a developer comes to town and makes these big promises like they're making now about Penn's Landing with the Sixer Stadium and, housing and all of that, we give away things. What a lot of folk don't see behind the scenes are all of the tax incentives that we give, right? So we say, hey, you know what? We really want this. So you don't have to pay these taxes, or we're going to defer them, or we're going to give you other kind of incentives to bring you in. So if we can become that creative when it comes to persons who come in with big promises, why can't we have that same creativity with, folk who are at the very bottom of the rung, so to speak?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, a lot of times, so mental health is certainly one of those issues, but also there are a lot of folk who just have had bad fortune, right? I mean, you're like, 2 or 3 bad decisions. You make a gamble in life, like a lot of people do. You're trying to capture that American dream. It doesn't work out. At the same time, somebody in the house gets sick, cleans out your, savings. Next thing you know, you're literally living in a car, and the car breaks down. And from the car, you go to. It's just folk don't want to be there, and so it's like, how do we then figure out how to use the best of our creativity to help get people up out of that situation? So I just think that, City of Philadelphia, if you're listening, Mayor Kenny, Tumar, Commissioner Outlaw, please understand, treat this like it really is. This is the symptom. Tents on the Parkway, that's the symptom. That's not the problem. Let's go to the root. Let's figure out how to fix the problem, and the symptoms will go away on their own. You don't have to worry about it. So, hey, listen, speaking of leadership, we got the first clip ready.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah. First of all, who goes and talks to Bob Woodward and just like spills your guts if you're a president? Donald Trump is like, see, this is what happens when you don't pay attention in history class.
So
do you know who Bob is?
Yes, I know, but wait a minute. So the Tucker Carlson last night on Fox blamed Lindsey Graham for this and said Lindsey Graham negotiated the meeting between Trump and Bob Woodward. So I know we got some clips there. So I'll make some comments on that after the clips.
All right. So this is really, I mean, look, we make light of it, because that's what we do. It's a morning show. But the fact is, this is extremely tragic, what we're about to hear, because this means that as far back as February the 7th, a full month before the shutdown, President Trump actually knew how the severity of this and publicly was saying something absolutely different. So, Kwesi, go ahead with the first clip, if you don't mind.
I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per, this is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%, so this is deadly stuff.
Wow. Can you, Kwesi, we missed a little bit. Can you run that from the very beginning of that clip? He's talking about the difference between the standard flu versus COVID-19. And remember his public statements. Go right ahead, Kwesi. Well, she's getting that.
What
there we
was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape. But it's a very tricky situation.
Indeed,
it goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know. It's
pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per, this is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
So, this is the President of the United States, who has politicized wearing masks, who has called Joe Biden out for wearing masks, who fought with a reporter as recently as a week ago about wearing his mask while interviewing him and raising questions. A full month before the actual shutdown in March, acknowledging to Bob Woodward that he knows how deadly this disease is, that it can kill up to 5% of people who contract it. And yet he went publicly and convinced his followers, who to this day can believe that this is a hoax, that this is nothing more than your garden variety flu. And now we're approaching 200,000 deaths, which is far greater than the 5%. You're talking about we lose 25,000 a year in the flu. Well, 200,000 is far worse. And from what I understand, estimates are showing that we're going to probably double that number before this thing finally is gone. I mean, what do you make of this madness?
Narcissism, right? I think that there was a way in which I'm trying to get inside Trump's head, which is actually a little complicated. But I think he thought that if he could just keep everybody calm, he would be the great father of America in this moment. And he would guide them through this situation, and they would come to rely on him. And I think he really does not understand the American psyche, that Americans want information. They want to know the truth. They want to be able to address the issue straight up. And I think he thought he could try to make it easy for them. And I think that is part of the problem with all this, right? It's because he thinks, and he doesn't think well. And I think that that's a real challenge for us as a country. I'm actually deeply disturbed because he actually went after Nancy Pelosi. He went after a whole bunch of political leaders in those early days. Well, actually, in some of this tape later on, because he said that they're not reacting fast enough. And I'm like, he's not reacting fast enough. He knows the information. He's not using it in a way that's helpful. He's actually using it to try to make himself be glorified in the midst of all of this. That's why I don't worry about Cynthia Enviro attributing what she did to Harriet Tubman, because Trump definitely thinks he's trying to be the savior of America, and that is not working at all.
All right, well, look, when we come back on the other side of this break, we'll play the second clip where he talks about playing it down, and it kind of gives you some thinking into his approach toward this, which, again, many say led to the loss of thousands of lives unnecessarily. And then we've got to play the clip about what he thinks about black folk. You remember us, those who he said, what the hell do you have to lose? Well, apparently a lot. We'll be right back. This is the Power Hour.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. Under my plan, 50% of emergency small business relief would be reserved for the smallest businesses to recover from the economic mess we're in and to rebuild the economic future our country deserves. We can't just build back to what it was before. We have to build back better. If we truly want to reward the work in this country, we have to ease the financial burdens of care that families are carrying. To start, every 3- and 4-year-old child gets access to free high-quality preschool, and low- and middle-income families won't spend more than 7% of their income on child care for children under the age of 5, advancing racial equity across the American economy, building wealth for families of color, building a future worthy of their courage and their ambition. Just imagine if we could truly unleash their full potential. I'm confident we can do this. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
The North Star Convention is a statewide event where concerned citizens, lawmakers, union and community leaders are collectively working together to create an agenda that will address the systemic issues in the Black community throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thursday, September 10th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., State Rep Jordan Harris and State Rep Summer Lee will be hosting a forum on police, criminal, and judicial reform. Go to NorthstarConvention.com to register for the free convention.
Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM, WURD.
I ain't no better than you, and you ain't no better than me. But we all have something in common. We all are a species, seeds of God's creation.
Tune in to Messages in the Music every Friday night with Joey T, midnight to 6 a.m. right here on WURD.
Now, a traffic update on Word Radio.
Good morning. Quiet start here in Philadelphia. 95 southbound looks pretty good for the ongoing construction. Coming down the bridge down to 3 lanes. No problems yet. That'll back up soon. Further on south down to Center City. No issues. Northbound 95 moving fine. The Vine Expressway in good shape through Center City. Schuylkill Expressway between 202 and South Street out of the way. No major problems. PA Turnpike and the Blue Route 476 moving fine. In New Jersey, looking good. 42, 55, 295 all in great shape. Into Philadelphia, no problems on the area bridges. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour with Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne Royster. We have been having a conversation this morning talking a bit about what's happening here in Philadelphia, what's happening with the removal of the homeless encampment. But then we've transitioned the conversation over to the revelations that have come from the tapes that Bob Woodward had in his conversations with Donald Trump for his forthcoming book. And we've just heard one. We have a couple more segments that are going to be coming up real quick. Doc, you want to introduce those segments? Yeah.
I'd be happy to. Well, I'm sad to, but I'll certainly do it. So we played the first clip. You can find these on CNN. Washington Post actually is housing them. CNN has made it a little easier to access them. So this is about his strategy. So when pressed about, how to play it down. Now, yesterday, he was actually giving impromptu comments to reporters there at the White House being pressed about this. And it was very interesting to hear yesterday. So his thinking is, well, you don't want to panic people. Now, remember, this is the problem when you are driven. So whatever it is you have before you become president, you bring that into the White House with you. But you're supposed to be able to pivot and transition. But he is still treating this as though this is a business deal, right? So as a business deal, yeah, the idea of panicking investors, you don't want to do that. And so sometimes I guess you don't tell all the facts, hoping that things will work out, and then folk won't kind of crash the system. Bruh, this is not a business deal. These are human lives. I have buried several people as a pastor who have died from coronavirus. And to have to go through that with families who had to say their goodbyes, by way of some video conference with a person in the hospital they did not know, holding an iPad up to their loved one as they tearfully said goodbye. These are real stories. And your concern about not panicking people, you know, which you think will ultimately hurt you and your reelection choices, is not acceptable. So let's play the clip, Kwesi, so we can hear in his own words about his rationale behind this.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older
Yeah, exactly.
young people, to plenty of young people.
So
what's going on in
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
Sure, I want you to
I
be.
wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes,
because I don't want to create a panic.
This is on March 19th, people. March 19th. Remember March 19th? That was the week following when most churches and synagogues and masjids and mosques stopped having their services. And even in leading up to that, there was a lot of debate. In fact, think about this. We know, Royster, you and I, that a lot of churches continue to have services after this date.
That's right.
So some of us, like us, got criticism for shutting down the week before. In fact, we closed our church and our museum even before we closed off the worship service. And so people were still, openly having their services, catching coronavirus and spreading it around, because on March 19th, the president, who acknowledges that this is deadly stuff and that it's airborne, is telling people that, it's okay publicly. You got to remember, these are the private conversations. You all don't need a lot of imagination to remember publicly him going out and saying this is no worse than the flu, which has become a main talking point for people on the right and his own followers. And it would be one thing if they just killed themselves, right? So you just keep it to yourself and you die, whatever. But you carry coronavirus and you give it to other people, whether they are liberal or conservative, Democrat or Republican, black or white. And so this is extremely deadly. And this is the man that some people are prepared to vote for to give another 4 years in office, who has conducted himself in this way. And I just don't understand it. It can't just always be about your pocketbook and that bottom line.
That is very correct. I mean, this is unfathomable. I don't understand how he could think that this would ever be acceptable and that people would never find out. In this age, in day and age, and he knew Bob Woodward was taping him. He knew that these tapes could eventually come out. So I'm trying to completely understand what was crossing his mind on this in this particular moment when he's having this conversation where he's admitting all these things, but he knows in his mind he's going to continually go out into the White House press room on a daily basis with two doctors next to him and lie to the American people. Day in and day out, he's going to go out there and say, it will just disappear. It will just go away. I mean, absolutely unfathomable. And then, eventually he would come and begin to undermine Dr. Fauci over a period of time, and Dr. Bricks from doing what they had to do. He compromised their medical integrity in much the same way that he has compromised the government's integrity at this particular moment in time on so many issues. This is absolutely tragic. It is ridiculous. I can't understand. I go back and I say this over and over again. I blame Mitch McConnell for the fact that we still have to contend with these lies on a daily basis, and the Senate that refused to move to work towards impeachment. I mean, there are so many impeachable things that this president has done. They have done absolutely nothing about. It's an absolute tragedy, and it is the fault of American. The democracy has failed because we have not gotten this man out of office. Absolutely failed. It is absolutely tragic.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you're right. We had an opportunity, right? We really had an opportunity to go a different direction. And as awful as I think Mike Pence is as a politician and the political views that he espouses, that you cannot really think that even a Mike Pence would have treated this this virus in this way and politicized in this way. I mean, you put the needs of people first. So there are studies that are out there and there are models that say that if we would have shut down on this day and as an entire country shut down, that these many people would have been saved if we would have shut down on this day. So as far back as February the 7th, you know this. Imagine if on February the 7th, knowing what he knew from China and the president there, that we would have taken these aggressive measures in February. The impact on the economy would have certainly been severe in a short period of time, but we would have gotten a handle on it. People would have understood better how to conduct yourselves and how to move around in society without contracting this and passing it on. And we would have saved a ton of lives. And yet instead, he has his own image in mind. And I mean, you're right. It's narcissism. It's all of those things. And it just simply shows why leadership and temperament is important.
That's right.
We've talked a lot in presidential elections about the temperament of a person with that 3 a.m. phone call, famously Hillary Clinton said, when it's about, do you like drop a bomb or not? But it's also about these moments as well.
That's right.
Jesus.
Help
me, Black Harriet. Black Moses. Come carry us on the way, Black Moses.
No, I mean, this is absolutely tragic. I know we got one more clip, so why don't we, we're still waiting for we'll pull that up. So you can't even adequately express the deep frustration. No, it's not even deep frustration, the deep sorrow and grief that one feels learning this information. And then, as you mentioned, the fact that you've had to bury many people who've died of COVID. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that it didn't have to happen.
No, I mean, that's what
it did not have to happen. People died on this man's watch. And yet he's still out there campaigning and acting like nothing is wrong and that he's the great savior of America.
Play it down. Play it down.
Yeah, that's right. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Yeah, you don't want to create a panic. Bob, the worst thing that can happen is creating a panic. No, the worst thing that can happen is people dying.
No, I mean, and check this out. This is the thing that always got me about this whole thing. So I remember they finally got to the place they were shutting things down. And then they realized black and brown folk were dying at a disproportionate rate for this whole thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, let's open up the country. Let's open the doors. Let's get herd immunity. Let's just do what we got to do. And I'm like, why? Because they're trying to kill black and brown folk. And that was the whole next thing.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it was tragic. It was tragic.
Well, right, exactly. It's like, it's a black disease. No, it's not. And if you think that, do so at your own peril. And well, all right. So glad to see, first of all the folk on Facebook Live. And what's up, Dorisha and Yolanda out of Texas, and Tawanda as well. Dave, good morning to you. And all of you who are tuning in on Facebook Live this morning, we want you to share this video out with others and invite others in and post your comments and your thoughts there as well. People agree with you, Roysta, that this is a lot to do with narcissism. And as Dorisha reminds us, Dr. Angelo's favorite quote, Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. He showed us who he is. People, obviously didn't believe it. Now we've got the body count to back it up. So he didn't stop there. One last clip where he talks about black folk. Thank you, Kwesa.
Hey, but let me ask you this. I mean, we share one thing in common. We're white, privileged, my father was a lawyer and a judge in Illinois, and we know what your dad did. And do you have any sense that privilege has isolated and put you in a cave to a certain extent, as it put me and I think lots of white privileged people in a cave, and that we have to work our way out of it to understand the anger and the pain particularly black people feel in this country?
You really drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you? Listen to you. Wow. No, I don't feel that at all.
Drank the Kool-Aid. He drank the Kool-Aid. He doesn't think he had privilege at all. No, his daddy only gave him $1 million to start his business, right? That happens to everybody. How many millions did your daddy give you to start your business?
He gave me $20 in college.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Once.
So I'm like, but he drank the Kool-Aid, right? Because I mean, first of all, it's a Jim Jones reference. He's actually, quoting a person of color. That's actually interesting. But what's also sad is that he's referring to a cult when he himself is a cult leader. So, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't care about us. He doesn't think that there's anything to what we're saying. I mean, it's absolute the epitome of white nationalism, white supremacy, white privilege, white narcissism to think that there isn't any difference in the way folk are raised, in the way that he was raised, right, with a golden spoon in his mouth, not even a silver spoon. He had a platinum spoon in his mouth. So,
right.
All right. I mean, I'm feeling too much.
No. But this also has policy implications, right? Mm-hmm. Because at the same time, right now, he is trying to purge the federal government, its use of training around bias, around implicit bias, around, institutionalized and systemic racism. And they are now cleaning all that up. I use air quotes, and pulling all of that language out, right? They don't want to fund anything that points toward white people having some kind of unfair advantage. And actually, it wasn't even $1 million. He publicly says his dad gave him a $9 million loan, which we know was not just a loan. And he says that was it, as though somehow, I got the short end of the stick here. But it was actually far more money than that, as by the past and the ways in which the estate was settled. It was millions of dollars that he received as a leg up in his story. I mean, it would be like saying his son Barron has no advantages and privileges. I mean, my God, your dad is a billionaire, your granddad was a millionaire, and your dad was a president. Of course you're going to have extra privilege, and you're white and you're male. So, I mean,
let me just say this, right? So Sunday there was an article that came out in the Huffington Post. So most people know I'm a religious reader of the Huffington Post. Mm-hmm. I am left of center. So let me admit where I stand on these issues. That he is actually refusing to give. He does not want to give federal education dollars to school districts that are using the New York Times 1619 curriculum to teach U.S. history. And for those that don't know, the 1619 curriculum is actually working to make sure that we're having a conversation about slavery in America, right? Last year was the 400th anniversary of the first slave. I can't really say anniversary. It's not something that we really want to celebrate. It's an acknowledgement that the first slaves that were in this country. So it is absolute travesty that he is now looking to pull federal dollars from school districts that are trying to write history, write R-I-G-H-T, not W-R-I-G-H-T, but write history by putting slavery in its proper context and its understanding about how slavery has impacted America through its economic situation, through its social situation, and so many other situations that occur in our country. He doesn't want to give them money now because he feels that the way that American history is being taught. Now, we should be mindful that there are school districts around this country that teach that slavery was voluntary and that people actually put themselves in slavery and that they were just unpaid workers. So this is an absolute travesty and tragedy. But look, let's do this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I know you're going to take us to a break, but there's one piece that you got to hit real quick. Let me just say this. So Steve Nash, just to show how this works out in real time, Steve Nash, great NBA player, has just been given the head coaching job of the New Jersey Nets, which is a loaded team. You got KD, Kyrie, so they're going to contend when those guys are healthy next year. Steve Nash has no coaching experience. Steve Nash is white, and Steve Nash went to the top. Ty Lue, who, as a coach, came back against the Golden State Warriors with LeBron, mind you, but down 3-1, did the impossible, won a championship, and is an assistant with the Clippers. Steve Nash has openly acknowledged that white privilege helped him get his job. I mean, the level of criticism the NBA is getting right now about this, that a white guy with no coaching experience starts as a head coach of a program ready to contend for a championship, and you got winners like Ty Lue who are on the bench, 5 NBA head coaches that are black in a league that is dominated by black players. There is something absolutely wrong, not just with the NBA, but with this country, and that is a living example.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I hate that you had to share that example, but that is reality, and that's Trump's America, and that's the way that he wants it, and we're going to fight with everything within us. Okay, we have to go to break, but let me just do this. We have callers lined up on the call, so when we get back from the break, we are going to address our callers. We deeply appreciate you calling in this morning. You are listening to the Power Hour with Mark Tyler, Dwayne Royster. We'll be right back.
Join Sisters in Transformation as they unleash the Gold Diggers Women's Zoom Conference on Saturday, September 12th at 2 p.m. To register, go to sistersинtransformation@gmail.com or call 215-218-8001 to register for a day of sisterhood transformation.
Tune in Saturdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to hear Empire Capital and Consulting founder Mark Palmer's show titled Black Money, Black Power. This show centers around black money and how black power is derived from money. Tune in every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Black Money, Black Power, hosted by Mark Palmer.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B, that is, and our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
This is Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson. We need every Philadelphian to be counted in the 2020 census to get the funding we need to recover from the challenges of COVID-19. The census brings funding to Philly for education, healthcare, food support, public safety, and more. For every person who isn't counted, Philly loses $21,000 in funds over the next decade. You have until September 30th to get counted. Go to 2020census.gov or call 1-844-330-2020. Don't delay. Get counted, Philly.
Now, a traffic update on Word Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Staples Stores. Southbound 95, going to have volume picking up now through the construction from Cottman Avenue down through Bridge, getting jammed up there, down to 3 lanes. Further south, no problems as of yet. Northbound side looks pretty good. The Vine Expressway through Center City looking good. Same thing on the Schuylkill Expressway, both ways, east and westbound. No major problems as of yet. An accident now on the Blue Route 476 northbound, right near the Schuylkill Expressway. It's off to the shoulder. Pennsylvania Turnpike in pretty good shape. In New Jersey, 55 northbound, getting heavy. Deptford in the 42. 42, 295, and the bridges into Philadelphia, all running fine still. Staples helps your business from office essentials to health essentials at amazing prices. This week at 40% back in rewards when you spend $75 on Anchor, $175 on toner, and 40% back in rewards on all paper. Offer ends 9/12. Exclusions apply. Details at staples.com/40 and rewards Staples. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour with Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne Royster. Our phone lines are lit up, so let's go to Cole from Northern Liberties. Cole, welcome to the Power Hour.
Yes, good morning, Reverend Brothers, and thank you for all that you continue to do on behalf of our community. I could not agree with you more. We have got to get Donald Trump out of office, and your efforts are tremendously appreciated, and all of us must redouble our efforts. But I want to look locally for a moment. I think that there are two things that need to be done in this city. One of those things I think has to be done by us as a black community and those who are in the leadership, and the other has to be done by the elected political class. What I think we need to do as a black community is work to get Antifa and these other radical white groups out of stopping them from hijacking the Black Lives Matter movement. Because I think that what they are doing, and I think that their hand is involved with that situation on the Parkway, because I have heard from a number of people that some of the proposals that the city has made have been quite reasonable and helpful. But I think that the Antifa types who are using black people as a battering ram to further their goal of, as they see it, destroying capitalism, are going to result in Donald Trump being reelected, especially what they're doing on the West Coast and other cities with these violent confrontations. This is just going to allow Donald Trump to say, see, you need me. It's going to be marching in your suburban communities soon. So that's on that end. On the other end, a year ago, the city council was saying that there was $400 million in a surplus that was going to be used to lift black people out of poverty in the city. Well, now COVID has eliminated that. But a brilliant brother by the name of Sultan Ahmed with the Ahmed Foundation has proposed this city needs to float a $600 million bond and use those funds to indeed lift those of us in this city who have been injured by a history of the racism and oppression out of poverty, including ending homelessness. I think that we need to be pushing for that. I'd like to hear your opinions on those two issues. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for giving us a call, Cole.
Yeah, I think that that there is certainly something to be said. We've said as much as well about the need for some kind of bond in this moment. Listen, people are borrowing money for everything in the moment we're in. COVID-19 is an extraordinary place. So depending on what side of the spectrum you live, you've either done extremely well during COVID-19 or your life has been absolutely devastated. There's not much middle ground. And the people who have been hit hard are the people who least could afford it. And I think that in a moment like this, it really calls upon, the city's leadership to take extraordinary steps. And who would be upset with city council and the mayor coming out saying we need, $500, $600 million, dollars or $1 billion even to, to help those who are at the very bottom. Because I think everybody understands in this moment, you've got to do something that is outside of what's normal. Nobody would fight it, but, the lack of imagination has been staggering to me. And kind of the resistance toward that attempt when we've spoken to elected officials, I just don't get it. So, Cole, I'm with you, and I do agree with him around, I've said as much, I think we talked about this yesterday, about people who are trying to hijack, a black movement, and my concerns about, white folk, because it's not everybody. Some white allies know how to really come in a respectful way and support, but there are others who do see this as an opportunity to push their own agenda. And they could care less, some of them, who the president is, because you talk to some folk, it don't really matter. They're all the same. So they don't plan to vote anyway. And yeah, will Donald Trump use what happens on the Parkway as a part of his campaign? Absolutely. And so, City, you ought to be careful about how you handle things.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, because I know we need to go to our next caller, that I don't know that Antifa is involved in the homeless encampment. I just want to challenge that one notion. I do believe Antifa is out there. I'm not sure that they're involved in the encampment. All right, let's go to Maurice in Southwest. Maurice, welcome to the Power Hour.
Gentlemen, you need more time. This show is just too good. What's something I've been dreaming of to have you two together. But listen, this is what I want to say. When I graduated high school, my mother served me an eviction notice, okay? Didn't give me no money. So I want to let you know that from the door. But as far as people need to know about, black people need to know about politics, they got to understand that he's using Hitler's playbook. People got to remember, Hitler was elected. He didn't just take power. He was elected into office. So we need to know a little bit about our enemy instead of just hoping we're going to win this election. Because when I'm out there in the streets, I don't see any enthusiasm. I don't see nobody talking about voting. I don't see nobody getting registered. I don't see that out here in Southwest. All I see is people asking me, why isn't Obama running? So this is the nonsense that I'm hearing in the streets. And I'm actually scared that we're going to get 4 more years, not because of what Trump is doing, it's because of black ignorance, not knowing black politics and knowing what they need to do. We are very powerful if we stick together, but everybody, you got a percentage of young black men not voting at all, they're not causing harm. When you don't vote at all, you might as well go in there and vote for Trump because you're getting him the edge, and they don't understand it. No matter how many times you try to explain it to them, they seem not to understand what's going on. Now, that other brother that was talking about that $600 million bond, no, that's not going to happen. That's just a whole lot of bolstering and talking crazy. We have a 2.5% before COVID, 2.5% ownership of business in the city, the black community. If they wanted to do something with all those black people on city council, they would see right there, that they need to boost that up. I mean, come on, 2.5%, and we're 40-something% or more of the community here in Philadelphia. That's a crime in itself. No wonder we're the poorest city because we don't have anything. Anytime anybody comes, okay.
Yeah, Mauricio, I'm sorry. We got another caller we have to get to before we get off the air, but we appreciate
what I just told you.
So, let me just say, I think that let me recommend that people go to votespa.com because he's right that, all of this means nothing if people don't vote. And, we can't get caught up in the rhetoric of other people who, continually try to, downplay the vote. At votespa.com, what you will see on the very first page is that poll workers are needed. Now, that's a real job. And so if younger people who are looking for work, a lot of the older poll workers, those nice grandmothers and grandfathers who sit there to take your information, don't want to risk COVID-19, and they're not going to go out this year. We want as many polling places open as possible. So direct young people there and make sure that they sign up for those jobs. This is an absolute thing that we need to do.
Great. Thank you for that. Let's go to Barbara from Northern Liberties. Barbara, you got about a minute and a half.
Right. Barbara from West Philly. I just want to say, please take a deep dive in the 3 ballot questions, and to help us understand everything with them. Thank you.
Great. Well, Doc, I know you're working on a couple of these, so you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, sure. Last night, let me direct you to Power Interfaith's Facebook page, and you'll see a series of town halls that our Live Free team has been doing. I'm fortunate to serve as one of the co-directors of Live Free, along with Elder Melanie DeBose and Gail Lax, who serves as our co-chair of Live Free. And so last night, we actually had all 7 members of the Public Safety Committee from City Council on, and Councilman Squilla as well. So 8 council members were on. Councilman Curtis Jones and Kenyatta Johnson and all the rest committed to, again, helping create a police oversight board that has some very specific things that we're asking for in there, including independence from the mayor's office, a budget that can actually do its job, and strong investigative powers that rival that of internal affairs. You've got to go back and check it out yourself. Kiera Bradford Gray, Chief Public Defender, is on with us, helping to make this argument. And so we can continue to talk about this leading up to November, but there is a ready resource for you. Power Interfaith's Facebook page. Check out all 5 of the town halls. The next one is 2 Wednesdays from now.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Doc. All right. Well, thank you for all of our callers that have called in today. Thank you, Coesa, for helping us with all these clips that we had to lay out this morning regarding Donald Trump and his insanity. Mr. Mayor, we hope you heard our conversation about the homeless encampment this morning and our new managing director, interim managing director, Tim. Why isn't he the regular managing director? Will somebody help me understand that?
Why isn't Ty Lue the head coach of the New Jersey Nets?
I don't understand it. I mean, the man, he's led several departments in the city. He's been a faithful public servant, civil servant, and I don't understand why he's not the permanent managing director at this point. So, okay. Well, anyway, that's
before you go, can we shout out one of the listeners that's listening? Well, in addition to Reverend Keon Garreau, who, by the way, we need to get him on. He's leading an effort of pastors throughout Pennsylvania who are under 50 trying to do voter turnout. They're doing a voter turnout Sunday. Keon, since you're up this early, we know you can come on early, so we should book him ASAP. But I always got to shout out the Sheriff of Nottingham.
All right, there you go.
Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, glad to see you. That's my good friend. I love Sheriff Bilal.
Awesome. Good morning, Sheriff. Good to see you in the place. And good morning, Pastor Garreau, as well. And to all of our other listeners that have been hitting us up on Facebook. Will Mega was actually on my Facebook page listening to us this morning. So we wanted to shout that out as well. All right. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for checking out the Power Hour. We will be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., hitting you up with the latest in news and commentary and opinions about what's happening in Black Philadelphia, Black Pennsylvania, and Black America. This is Dwayne Royster signing off with Mark Kelly Tyler. Peace. We'll see you tomorrow. Listen to Solomon Jones coming up on Wake Up with Word.
Deuces.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
We have to let people know we're listening, that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
But they're not getting a chance now.
Joe Biden.